A mother's love turned deadly. The Gypsy Rose Blanchard story. For years, she was the miracle child, the girl who survived everything: cancer, seizures, paralysis. Her mother, Dee Dee, told the world that every breath was a struggle. Charities came, doctors obeyed, neighbors prayed. But the miracle wasn't life. The miracle was how long a lie could live. This is the story of Gypsy Rose Blanchard, the girl who was never sick, and the mother who made her believe she was. For years, they looked like a miracle, a mother and daughter who had survived everything: illness, loss, and pain. Neighbors saw the wheelchairs, the medicine bottles, the oxygen tubes. They heard the quiet hum of machines through the window and thought, what a strong woman, what a devoted mother. Dee Dee Blanchard was that mother, always smiling, always gentle, always telling the world about her little girl, Gypsy Rose, a child who, she said, had the body of a 9-year-old and the health of a dying woman. Leukemia, muscular dystrophy, seizures, asthma, hearing loss. There was no end to the suffering she described. But Gypsy was not sick. She never was. The world just didn't know that yet. In the small pink house in Springfield, Missouri, life was a performance, one staged by Dee Dee herself. She kept medical files thicker than novels and told doctors that Gypsy's records were lost in the storm. Hurricane Katrina had washed away the proof, she said, and they believed her. Every doctor, every charity, every neighbor. The local papers called them an inspiration. Habitat for Humanity built them a home. The Make-A-Wish Foundation sent them on trips. They smiled for cameras, their hands gently clasped, their matching pink clothes a symbol of hope. But if you looked closer, there were cracks. Gypsy's head was always shaved, her teeth decaying from unnecessary medication. Her eyes followed the world, wide and silent, but her voice rarely left her throat. Dee Dee spoke for her. Dee Dee decided what she ate when she slept and who she could talk to. She told everyone that Gypsy's father was gone, that he had abandoned them. But the truth was, he still sent gifts, birthday cards, money. He just never got to see his daughter alone. The house was a stage, and every visitor was part of the audience. When Gypsy laughed too loud, Dee Dee's eyes would darken. When she tried to stand, Dee Dee would whisper, "Sit down, sweetheart. You know what happens when you walk," and Gypsy believed her, because a child believes her mother before she believes herself. By 2010, Gypsy was almost 20, but Dee Dee told everyone she was still 15. She changed birth certificates, hid the truth from doctors, and controlled every word that left her daughter's lips. She's fragile, she'd say. Her body's failing her. But the only thing failing was the truth. Behind the curtains, Gypsy started to realize small things. She could move her legs. The pills made her dizzy, not better. And the stories her mother told never matched the calendar. Each night, she stared at the ceiling, wondering what it felt like to walk outside, to choose her own food, her own friends, her own thoughts. But in the Blanchard house, freedom was a disease, and Dee Dee had the cure. On the outside, it looked like love. On the inside, it was control. And slowly, the girl in the wheelchair began to see that the person she trusted most might also be the one who kept her sick. This was the illusion of care, a love so powerful it destroyed the life it claimed to protect. In the next chapter, we'll step into the life of the perfect daughter, the role Gypsy played so well that even she began to believe it. But how long can a lie this big survive? By day, Gypsy Rose was the perfect child, sweet, polite, soft-spoken. a daughter any mother would dream of. She smiled for the cameras, waved from her wheelchair, and said the words her mother taught her: "I'm just happy to be alive." In photos, Dee Dee stood close, one hand on her daughter's shoulder, the other holding a clipboard of medical records, proof of the illness that defined them both. Every detail of Gypsy's life was carefully rehearsed. When she spoke, her mother finished the sentence. When she hesitated, Dee Dee laughed it off. She gets confused sometimes. Poor baby. The world adored them. News reporters called them an inspiration. Local TV showed footage of charity events, pink balloons, smiling volunteers, Gypsy in her wheelchair, head tilted in practiced gratitude. People sent letters, toys, donations. Doctors took photos for journals saying, "A brave child with a rare combination of conditions." No one questioned the story. Gypsy was too quiet to protest and too afraid to imagine a world where her mother might be wrong. At night, she'd listen to the sound of Dee Dee's footsteps, pacing the hallway, checking the doors, whispering to herself about medicines and schedules. Sometimes Gypsy would pretend to sleep just to hear the soft click of the locks. The house wasn't a home, it was a hospital built on fear. When she dared to look in the mirror, she didn't see a patient. She saw a healthy girl trapped inside someone else's story. But Dee Dee made sure that story stayed the same. Every birthday came with pink cakes, princess crowns, and the same words: "You're still my little girl." Dee Dee didn't just steal Gypsy's health, she stole her time. Years disappeared inside that illusion of eternal childhood. When Gypsy was 19, Dee Dee told everyone she was 15. When she was 21, still 16. Growing up was dangerous, because if Gypsy grew up, she might grow away. So Dee Dee tightened her hold. More pills, more doctor visits. The more Gypsy learned, the more the lies began to tremble. And one night, while Dee Dee slept, Gypsy reached for her mother's laptop for the first time, unguarded. She found online worlds filled with stories like hers, girls her age talking, laughing, living, and she realized the most painful truth of all, that her life wasn't a gift, it was a sentence. For years, the house had no clocks. Time didn't exist there. Only routines, the soft buzz of machines and a mother's voice controlling every hour. But at night, when Dee Dee finally slept, Gypsy would reach for something she wasn't supposed to have, a laptop hidden beneath her bed. The screen glowed like forbidden light in the dark, and for the first time, the world outside their pink house began to speak back. In chat rooms, Gypsy met people her own age, people who joked, complained, fell in love, people who were free. She told them she was sick. She told them her mother was her whole world, but between the lines, she wrote what she really meant: "I want to be someone else." Then one night, she met him, Nicholas Godejohn, a quiet man from Wisconsin, awkward, lonely, but kind to her in a way she had never known. Their conversations turned into plans, dreams of meeting in person, of running away, of a love that would finally belong to her. To Nicholas, Gypsy was an angel trapped by circumstance. To Gypsy, Nicholas was the proof that the world beyond her mother existed. But every secret has a heartbeat, and in that house, even the walls seemed to listen. Dee Dee began to sense the change. She found Gypsy's laptop, she read the messages, and the punishment came quietly. No yelling, no threats, just silence. She smashed the computer, she took away Gypsy's phone, and she whispered the same words she always did: "I'm doing this to protect you." But protection and prison can look the same when love becomes control. Gypsy tried to forget. She smiled again for photos, went to hospital appointments, let her mother hold her hand for the cameras. But inside, something had shifted. She had seen freedom, and she couldn't unsee it. The lies that once kept her safe now felt like chains around her throat. Every time Dee Dee said, "I love you," it echoed like a warning. By 2015, Gypsy's secret life had returned, this time on her phone. Hidden accounts, late-night messages. Her chats with Nicholas grew darker, more desperate, filled with fantasy, fear, and the promise of escape. Gypsy was no longer the perfect daughter. She was a prisoner planning her own release. The night was quiet, too quiet for a house that had carried years of noise, machines, pills, voices. In that silence, a plan was breathing. Gypsy sat on her bed, eyes fixed on the pink curtains. She could hear her mother's soft snores through the wall. Her phone buzzed once. "I'm here." Outside, Nicholas waited, a stranger to the world of pastel rooms and plastic syringes. He had traveled from Wisconsin to save her. At least that's what Gypsy believed. The door creaked open, the air shifted. In the dim light of the bathroom, Dee Dee slept. And in that moment, the illusion that had trapped Gypsy for 2 decades began to crack. She covered her ears. There was a sound, not loud, not cinematic, just a small, real sound, a knife drawn across years of silence. When it was over, the house smelled of metal and medicine. Gypsy and Nicholas packed a few clothes, a handful of cash, and left through the back door. The wheelchair stayed behind, the oxygen tank, the feeding tube, all of it. For the first time, Gypsy walked out on her own feet. She didn't run. She walked, slow, trembling in disbelief, into the humid Missouri night. They took a bus north, toward Wisconsin. Gypsy slept on Nicholas's shoulder, the hum of the highway mixing with the echo of everything she'd left behind. Somewhere in the back of her mind, a thought repeated, "It's finally over." But freedom that begins in blood never ends quietly. 2 days later, a message appeared on Dee Dee's Facebook page. "That boff is dead." Neighbors rushed to the house. Police arrived. The door was locked. The smell hit them first. Then they saw the body. And when they searched for Gypsy, the fragile, sick girl who couldn't walk, they found her hundreds of miles away, standing unharmed. The world had been watching a lie, and it had just fallen apart. News spreads faster than truth. The neighbors gathered outside the Blanchard home. Pink walls, silence, yellow tape. Reporters whispered words that didn't fit together. Murder, missing girl, wheelchair found inside. How could the sick child who needed round-the-clock care simply vanish? And then, the headline. Gypsy Rose found alive and walking. For the first time in 23 years, Gypsy was seen standing on her own 2 feet. Cameras flashed. Police officers stared. The story everyone thought they knew collapsed in seconds. In interrogation rooms, Gypsy's soft voice carried a different kind of sickness, not of the body, but of years of control. She told detectives everything: the feeding tubes, the shaved head, the forged papers, the lies that had built her mother's kingdom of sympathy. Years of paperwork, hundreds of appointments, and not one doctor stopped to ask the right question. How could a child so sick keep surviving? She didn't cry when she described the night. She cried when she talked about love, about how she believed her mother was all she had. The world didn't know how to react, half called her a monster, half called her a victim. She could have run away, some said. She was trapped, others replied. On talk shows and social media, people dissected her life like a puzzle, each piece more unbelievable than the last. The story became a documentary, then a drama. Mommy Dead and Dearest, The Act, replayed for millions who still couldn't decide what to feel. Dee Dee had always been praised as a hero, but now her carefully built image lay in fragments, prescriptions without diagnoses, doctors who remembered her charm, neighbors who replayed every strange detail they'd ignored. In court, Gypsy sat quietly beside her attorney, her hair finally growing back, her voice steady. When asked why she didn't just leave, she said, "Because she would have found me." The prosecutors wanted justice, the public wanted closure. But between those two, there was something else. The uncomfortable truth that sometimes victims can bleed into villains. In 2016, Gypsy Rose Blanchard was sentenced to 10 years in prison for second-degree murder. Nicholas Godejohn, her accomplice and lover, received life without parole. Outside the courthouse, rain fell over the cameras and microphones. Some said justice was served. Others said it never could be. Because how do you measure guilt in a house built on lies? Prison was nothing like the house she came from. The walls were higher, the rules clearer, but for the first time, they made sense. Inside, Gypsy Rose learned how to live by her own choices. She read books about psychology, wrote letters to strangers, and began to understand the word control in ways no one else could. Among those letters came one from a man she would later call her fiancé, a pen pal who saw her not as a headline, but as a human being. Behind bars, she found connection, the kind built not on pity, but on understanding. Reporters called her the girl who killed for freedom. But freedom, she learned, isn't the same as peace. It's quieter, lonelier, a silence you must learn to live with. In 2023, after 8 years behind bars, Gypsy Rose Blanchard walked out of prison. Cameras flashed again, just like before, but this time she stood without fear. She spoke softly. "I've done my time. I'm ready to start over." To some, she was a cautionary tale. To others, a survivor of the worst kind of love. Online, her face became a symbol. TikTok edits, interviews, documentaries. The same world that once pitied her now debated her every move. Some said she was free, others said she would never be. In quiet moments, Gypsy wrote in her journal, "I wish people understood that I was never truly alive until I was in prison." Because for the first time, no one was watching her sleep or telling her what she could eat or who she was supposed to be. Outside, the pink house still stands, empty, silent, fading. A monument to a story too strange to forget, a reminder that love, when twisted by fear, can become the cruelest kind of cage. Dee Dee Blanchard is gone. Gypsy Rose Blanchard lives on. And between them lies a truth that still echoes, that sometimes in the search for freedom, innocence becomes another casualty. Sometimes the truth doesn't set us free. It only shows us the walls we've lived behind. Gypsy Rose's story is not just about a crime. It's about years stolen under the guise of love, a mother who created an illusion, and a daughter who finally broke it to survive. Even now, her freedom carries the weight of what came before, because some cages follow us long after they're opened. Every secret waits to be revealed. Every silence that carries an echo, every story is waiting to be told. This was her secret. What about yours? What do you think about this case? Share your thoughts in the comments. Every voice matters. Subscribe and step into the echoes of truth.